morning, students. Welcome you all in your subject Social Science. Okay, let's continue our workbook solution. Okay, of chapter 2. So open your book, workbook, page number 18. 17. Okay, question exercise 5. Which type of crops was grown by primitive man? Okay, primitive man कौन से crops grow करते थे? The crops like wheat, barley, millet, like bajra, rice, lentil, etc. Okay, were grown by primitive man. Which animals were reared by primitive man? कौन से animals को रखते थे? The animals like dog, sheep, goats, cow, buffaloes, bullocks, etc. were reared by primitive man. Okay. What is the initial stage of primitive man called? Okay. चलो उनका जो primitive जो initial stage था क्या था? The initial stage of primitive man is called hunters and gatherers. बराबर, क्योंकि वो सिर्फ हंटिंग करते थे और उसको कलेक्ट करके रखते थे, तो गैदरिंग. ओपन नेक्स्ट पेज. ओके, why did the primitive man wander from one place to another? क्यों जाते थे? Okay, the primitive man wandered from one place to another to search of food. Okay, who found the places of primitive people's habitation in India? Archaeologists, okay, anthropologists and historians found the places of primitive people's habitation in India. Next, which type of weapons and implements did primitive man use? कौन से weapons use करते थे? So primitive man used the weapons and the implements made of stones, wood and bones. Why is the initial time of primitive man called the Stone Age? क्यों उसे Stone Age कहते थे? Since the primitive men were associated with the stone technology, their initial time is called the Stone Age. Okay, how were the implements of Stone Age used? कैसे implements हुआ? The stones as implements of Stone Age were used to cut the vegetation and to scrap to skin of animals. Okay, which type of places did primitive man prefer to live in? Okay, किस टाइप की प्लेस पे वो रहना प्रीफर करते थे? So primitive man preferred to stay in good and large places where stones, wood and water could be found. जहाँ पे वो water, wood वो सब उनको मिल सके. Next question. Which type of and how many paintings have been found in the caves of in Bhimbetka? तो about 500 paintings. कितनी? 500 paintings of birds, deer, wooden spears, okay, trees and human beings have been found in the caves of Bhimbetka. Which discovery and which invention, one question skip. How can one say that primitive men were familiar with fire? कैसे लगा कि जो primitive men थे वो fire से familiar थे, मतलब उनको fire के बारे में पता था. The remains of ashes as राख मिली, okay, have been found from the Kurnool located in South India. Thus, we can say that the primitive men were familiar with fire. Question number 12. Which discovery and which invention made a significant change in the life of primitive man? चलो, कौन सा इन्वेंशन उनकी लाइफ में एक साइनिफिकेंट चेंज लाया? तो डिस्कवरी ऑफ फायर एंड इन्वेंशन ऑफ व्हील, ओके, made a significant change in the life of primitive man. Okay, now open next page. Chalo, just a minute. Okay, how did primitive man first learn to make the will? Okay, कैसे? Question is, how did primitive man first learn to make the will? बराबर, उन्होंने will बनाना कैसे सीखा? Right? चलो, तो the primitive man learned first to make the will from the trunk of a tree and its thick wood. बराबर, trunk of tree से उसका जो एक होता है ना ट्रंक, उसमें से थोड़ा पार्ट कट कर दिया, फिर उसे ऐसे किया तो रोलिंग किया होगा, तो ऐसे ही उनका विल का इन्वेंशन हुआ. ओके, द नंबर ऑफ विच एनिमल्स स्टार्टेड टू इंक्रीज विथ एटमोसफियर चेंज. ओके, द नंबर ऑफ कौन से एनिमल्स ज़्यादा हुए जो एटमोसफियर चेंज हुआ? तो द नंबर ऑफ हर्बिवरस एनिमल्स like deer, sheep, goats, etc. started to increase with atmosphere change. Next, in what kind of the houses did primitive man live after living in a cave? Okay, so कहाँ पे रहते थे? So after living in a cave, primitive man lived in the houses made of mud, okay, thatch and other material around the growing cranes. बराबर, वहाँ पे वो सेटल हुए थे ना, फिर अपने हाथों से वो मड वो सब रॉ मटेरियल्स यूज़ करके कच्चा हाउस जैसा बनाते थे. With what kind of pet animals did primitive man live? Okay, primitive man lived with the pet animals like कौन से pet animals से? तो dog, sheep, goats, cows, buffalo, pigs, etc. Due to what activities did the wandering life of primitive man came to an end? Yes, किस वजह से उनकी लाइफ का जो वंडरिंग लाइफ थी उसका एंड हुआ और सेटल लाइफ हुई? तो ड्यू टू द एक्टिविटीज ऑफ फार्मिंग एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री द वंडरिंग लाइफ ऑफ प्रिमिटिव मैन केम टू एन एंड. उसका एंड हुआ. After the end of wandering life, what changes came to the life of primitive man? So, after the end of wandering life, the changes in food, clothing and shelter came in the life of primitive man. उनके फूड में, रहने में, कपड़ों में, सब में चेंजेस हुआ. राइट, पहले तो वो ऐसे ही घूमते थे, फिर सेटल हुए. Which farming implements did primitive man make from stone? So, primitive man made the farming implements like spade or hoe, chisel, sickle, etc. from stones. Stone से ये सब बनाते थे, right? What was the food of settled primitive man? Okay, जो settled थे primitive man, बाद में उनका food कैसा था? The food of settled primitive man was wheat, barley, flesh of animals, fish, roots and fruits. Okay, which places of primitive man's habitat did archaeologists discover? Okay, so the archaeologists discovered the places of primitive man's habitat like बुर्ज होम. कहाँ से मिला था? बुर्ज होम, ओके, गुफक्रम, हुरंगी, मेहरगढ़, ओके, लहगंज, भीमबेटका. बराबर, ऐसे प्लेस से उनके जो एविडेंस थे वो वहाँ से मिले थे. ओके स्टूडेंट्स, सो नाउ turn the page. Okay, आज के लिए इतना ही. थैंक यू.